check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Right on, writers. Welcome back to the Books by Adrian author platform. I am your host, Adrian Santiago. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am a author and YouTube content creator over here. And if it is your first time with us, thank you for coming. I'm very excited to have you here. We do this every Sunday at 4 p.m. It's called Livestream Sunday. We talk to authors and other creative people, and we have a good time. It's like a little talk show dealie. It's going to be fun. So thanks for being here. It's going to be awesome. If it is your first time, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, please, and thank you. It helps us all out. And let's see here. Let's get started with, the rundown. So I am a first-time author. My debut novel, Mythic Shadow of the Spark, comes out early next year. I'm very, very psyched about it. And I have a copy right here. You can't read it yet, but it's there. If you would like to know more about the book and be alerted when it's coming out, see the cover reveal, all that good stuff, sign up for the newsletter. There's a link to the website in the description down below. It is also written in the screen before your eyes so that you can type it in if you choose to do so that way. Either way, go check me out, sign up. It's good stuff. Today's guest, we have Chris Cole. I'm very excited to speak to him. If you are also excited to speak to him, please label any and all questions you have for Mr. Cole with a Q followed by a colon. This is going to help me to find the questions in the chat, and that's going to help me to gather them all up and ask him during the final segment of the show. I'm very excited about that. While we're on that subject, welcome to any and all chat roomers out there right now. Anybody watching, welcome. Thank you for coming out. Normally we do the This Week in AuthorTube and Comment of the Week and all that stuff right now. However, I didn't have any comments this week, so we're not doing Comment of the Week. And This Week in AuthorTube, everyone's freaking out about NaNoWriMo. It's almost over and everyone's panicking. And so it's all just sprints and streams and stuff about like, oh my God, I didn't write any words this week, or, oh, I have to finish. So I didn't do any This Week in AuthorTube because it just seems like everybody's kind of in a tailspin. So we're just going to pass on that this week. So what we are going to do is get right on into it with our guest, Chris Cole. Now, Chris Cole is the author of at least 4 books. It seems like he's putting out a 5th soon, and from what I understand, he's got a couple others that may or may not see the light of day someday, and we're going to talk to him about all of these things when we bring him out, and we will bring him out when I click the button. Here we go. Welcome to the show, Chris. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I am very good. Very happy to have you here with us. I'm even going to break out your cover. Bam! Look at that right there. Very nice.
That's the cover.
It's one of them. You got some books, man. We're going to have some talk about that. We're going to have to talk about all the books. Welcome, Richard. I know that you're down with the sprints. It just doesn't really make for good This Week in AuthorTube kind of content. So, enjoy your sprints. That's great. We got nothing against them. Go sprints. All right. So, Mr. Cole, we're going to dive right on in because I have a lot to talk to you about. Let's start off with your background. Where do you come from? What part of this world and maybe country do you hail from?
So I was born and raised in Southeast Idaho, which really exists. Idaho does. I know there are people out there that are like, anybody who's from Idaho is actually like a federal agent or something. But no, really from Idaho.
Yeah, but that's exactly what a federal agent would say.
Is it?
It is.
Is it?
And
Okay.
what are you working on these days?
Lots. So, I've got an action adventure romance that I'm working on. I
Nice.
got sequels to these 2 books.
And we're gonna be talking about
Still
that too.
working
Yeah,
on.
you got
Yeah.
you got to. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then I've got a sci-fi series that I'm debuting next year. Indie publishing that, so I've got lots to do. Plus, I'm working full time and going to school full time, grad school.
Yeah,
So just a few things on my plate.
yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of all the things on your plate, how are Trent and Chewy? I understand that you've got yourself a lovely little family. How they doing? They doing all right?
Yeah. Chewy is sitting directly beneath my chair right now.
For those folks at home, he's a dog.
Yes, he's the cutest little dog. He probably doesn't want to say hi. He's a little stubborn. Trent just left to go visit his parents in just about an hour away or so. So, yeah, they're doing great. Like,
Idaho famous for its mashed potatoes.
Yeah, any potatoes.
Any
for
potatoes,
sure.
all
Yeah.
potatoes.
Yeah, we have a multitude of potatoes at Thanksgiving. You can have mashed potatoes. You can have the potato casserole. You can have scalloped potatoes.
You're giving me what is it, Bubba vibes from Forrest Gump.
Yeah. Right.
Fried shrimp, boiled shrimp burgers.
There you go.
You just keep
There's
on
so
going.
many. Yeah. And I don't even don't tell anybody. Well, I guess don't tell anybody else. I'm not a huge fan of potatoes.
You're from Idaho.
I know.
First of all, how is anyone not a fan of potatoes? You can make them like any way that like best suits you. Like there's got to be one way that you like potatoes.
Oh, I mean, I like potatoes, but it's not like my go-to. Like,
Yeah.
it's they're always available, always.
Yeah.
And so
I'm the opposite of you. I'm a meat and
Alright.
potatoes kind of guy. Like every meal,
Oh.
I gotta have some kind of potato.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm a big fan of mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes is good
Yeah,
stuff.
just classic butter in them, and then get a little bit of ranch or something in them. They're pretty good.
I like your style.
Yeah.
All right. So you are hard at work, not just as an author, but also, as I understand it, you are also in school for a
Yeah.
future as a school counselor. Is this still the plan? Is this still what you're working towards? Tell us a little bit about your desires in that area.
Yeah, so I started school last year in the Masters of Counseling program and decided on the school counseling track, which is just probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Because you're not just figuring out how to be a counselor, you're figuring out what your biases are, what you're really getting into your own personal trauma and then having to overcome that to help other people with theirs, which is it's really intense. It's hard work, but it's really worth it, I think, in the long run. On my
Not
own
only that, but
podcast, yeah.
I figure you probably have to be pretty versatile with it too, because everybody learns differently, everybody copes differently, everybody is going to be working through their issues differently. So yeah, it's got to be quite a challenge.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I always advocate for people to go see a counselor. I see my own counselor. It's totally a thing that's super important to do.
Yeah.
And as a school counselor, especially, I'm dealing with a lot of crisis and trauma. And so people come in crisis, and it's just got to help them how you can. And then go see someone long term, to work on that. That's how it works.
Right on.
Yeah.
Huckleberry Rar says, "Who knew people were really from Idaho?"
I know. Exactly.
There's no wrong way to eat potatoes. You're not wrong, Ben. You are not wrong.
That's for sure.
Well, you know what? Maybe Richard found one. Baked potatoes with cheese, tuna, mayo, and butter. Richard, get out. What's wrong with you? What is wrong?
I've never heard of that. Wow.
He's British. British
Oh.
people, yeah, it's a whole different thing.
Okay. Explains a lot.
See, now we're talking baked potatoes with cheese, sour cream, butter. Yeah, see, that's nice, classy. Get your tuna out of here, Richard. All right, we're coming up.
There you go.
Let's move on. When did your writing go from a hobby to a career? You put out 4 books. You got plans for so many more. This is big time stuff, man. Where did that shift happen?
Oh gosh, I started writing. The first book that I ever wrote was in 8th grade, and that was this cute little alphabet adventure story that come to find out, had a lot of meaning behind it that I didn't really realize at the time, because it was all about the letter Y and how they weren't a consonant or a vowel, but they were both, but they were neither. And so it was kind of like, oh, that's getting into like non-binary, transgender, queer issues.
Oh,
and
man,
I had no
wow.
idea at the time. And so now I'm like, oh, I've got to really like publish that book. That'll be great. Like, so I 8th grade, and then in high school I was interested in sci-fi, and so I started writing all these action-packed stories.
Right.
That's what my sci-fi series eventually morphed into, because you know your writing style changes after 10 years or so.
Sure.
And so in 2015, that's when I really sat down and I wrote the first book ever, which was the first book of my Fragments sci-fi series, and then just worked on it from there. And then in 2020, after I'd written probably 6 more books, finished that trilogy and added 3 more, that was when I decided to publish. And so I published my first book, which is an erotica called Everyday Vampire. And that was the first book I published. And then after that, I published Porch Light, which is a romance with spicy romance. Mm-hmm. And then I got 2 more spicy romances. And then actually in June, I think it was June, maybe July, I published a horror romance sequel to Everyday Vampire.
See, I thought that was still coming out, so we're gonna get to that a little later. Let's go one by one through your books here real quick. Let's go ahead and do an elevator pitch of Everyday Vampire then, for anyone at home who hasn't read it or doesn't know your stuff. What can they expect from the pages of Everyday Vampire?
Everyday Vampire is just like what it sounds like. You turn into a vampire, but you still have life to live. But you have a long life to live, so what do you do with all that time? You have sex.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
True Blood taught me that.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it goes.
And now let's talk briefly about the publishing of Everyday Vampire, because you published through JMS, and this being your first book, I find that really interesting. Tell us about the journey to getting that published. What was it like, querying it and everything? Like, take us through that.
So I queried it through several publishers until I finally heard about JMS. They're not like a huge traditional publisher. And so when I heard about them, queried it, it went directly to JMS, J.M. Snyder, who is also an author and runs JMS Books. And they accepted it. And I was like, oh, okay. Holy cow. Wow. The first initial acceptance of being published kind of thing. And then sent them all the stuff. I got to help. I got to pick out pictures for the cover, kind of decide what it looks like, everything like that. Went through the editing process, and then learned the ropes of the editing turnaround, like deadlines, stuff like that, which is always fun. And then they published it, distributed it to all the places, so it's available like everywhere books are sold, basically.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
It's a great publishing company. They're really. What I really like about them is they're focused on telling queer stories, which I really think is important, especially nowadays in this day and age. Like, how else do you know about queer people being normal, regular people if you don't tell their stories?
I've got queer main characters in my upcoming debut. I might reach out to them, see what they want, want to do with it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I love this moment where Richard quotes us. He's British. Oh, yeah. It's like that moment in John Wick where it's like, yeah, you killed John Wick's dog, and they're like, oh. Everything makes sense now. Never mind.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So let's see here. What was my question going to be here with? All right. So Everyday Vampire, steamy romance, and also genre. So I'm also this way where like I can't like stick to any one thing. So like my novel is it's a murder mystery. It's set in a sci-fi fantasy world. My editor recently finished with it and explained to me that it's an urban fantasy. And I'm like, I didn't set out to write an urban fantasy, but that's what I've written. So, okay. So now it's an urban fantasy. But the main, like the B plot line, the main B plot line is a romance plot line in it as well. So it's got a little bit of everything. What's this like for you with the whole like infusing all of these things together? Like, where does that come from for you? Is it because of what you read, what you watch? What was the thinking behind Everyday Vampire?
Originally it was just a way to like write. And then when I decided to publish it, it was very much, I wonder if people want to read stuff like this. It turns out, yes, they do. And so the original goal behind it was to create like a science fiction world, under the premise of the idea, like, okay, so what if you get turned into a vampire, but really now it's just like a poison kind of thing that makes you live forever and have to drink blood, but it doesn't give you any superpowers, and your skin doesn't sparkle, and you don't get like all the super speed, super strength, like all of that stuff. Like, it's nothing special. It's like a legit curse.
The two of you were like seconds apart. Do the vampires sparkle? Like seconds apart. Question answered.
No, they do not.
Good.
They do
not. We're all very happy to hear that. Go ahead and elevator pitch us Porchlight then, because that was your follow-up, if I'm not mistaken. It went from Everyday Vampire to Porchlight. What was that one like?
Yeah, so Porchlight, I wrote that in 2 weeks. Basically, the story is about this band. They make it big, and they go through the process and the journey of discovering who they are, overcoming obstacles, addiction, coming out, the rising pressures of being, a new successful band, and finding love.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I like it. Now that was followed up by Avoiding Aiden, which is the cover that we have on the screen right now.
Yeah.
That cover is the most intriguing to me, I gotta say, because just the look on this guy's face, I feel like there's so much story behind that look. So tell us a little bit about Avoiding Aiden.
Avoiding Aiden starts out with a breakup. And Aiden gets dumped by his boyfriend and is super depressed, meets with his friends who are maybe not the best influence. And they're like, a hookup is the answer. Get over it nice and fast. And so he meets this guy, they hook up, have a great time. He spends the summer away, meeting all of his siblings, visiting, all that stuff, comes back to school for his senior year. And the guy he hooked up with is his professor. And then we follow the journey.
Hilarity ensues. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I would definitely say this one is near and dear to me, not because I had that experience, but because I love the characters so much.
It sounds very character rich.
Yeah,
for sure.
I really like it.
When you started pitching it, it almost sounded to me like the gay Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Right? Like the guy that goes through the breakup and then has to go. But, the twist of it being his professor, I'm like, awkwardness. It's great. Juicy. Yep. Very juicy. Mm-hmm. But there's another twist. Avoiding Aiden goes to Broadway?
Maybe. I don't know.
What's going on there? Tell us a little bit. I understand. A little birdie told me that you might be shopping this around as a play. What's going on there?
Yeah. So I wanted to write a play for a long time, and I've written a couple plays. I wrote in 2017. We have a local theater who does what's called a 24-hour theater, which is where you write the play, rehearse it, and it goes on in a period of 24 hours, which is really intense. And so I wrote a play called Murica, which is probably a little politically controversial, but it was very much about kind of current politics at the time. And I really enjoyed that experience and wanted to continue writing plays since then. So I took the subject matter of Avoiding Aiden, and what's really hard is adapting it to be a play where you can only have so many people on a stage, really. And in the book, Aiden has 5 siblings, and each sibling has a significant person in their life. Plus he has friends, plus there's love interest, plus there's other characters, and so it turns into like this huge thing. And the first draft was like 3 hours long.
I mean, I gotta figure if a lot of it takes place with him as and his professor, then there's classroom scenes, so there's students and there's all kinds. Yeah, like that sounds like a huge cast.
Yeah. So what I had to do is and some authors may enjoy this, and I know that I definitely kind of enjoy this. I had to kill some characters off. But like in this version, they just don't exist versus like having to kill them off on stage and that kind of thing.
You killed them off in your heart, not on the
yeah,
page.
I did. It was really hard. I was like, no, he has 4 siblings in the book. And then like, anyway, so book is different than the play, and they're set different, and different things happen in the play, I will say. So I really enjoyed that aspect, and we actually did a readers theater performance of it last summer, which helped me figure out what works, what doesn't, and then from there I'm just continuing to shop it around.
Wow. Okay. Let's throw these up here. We got some congrats on getting your book into a new format. Good luck with taking that from book to page, or from page to stage rather. We have Wesley saying that a 24-hour play sounds intense.
It is so intense. You stay up all night for 12 hours and write a play, and then people rehearse it and then put it on.
And yay for killing characters, of course.
Yeah. I'm that author.
Yeah, I'm bloodthirsty like that too. I'll keep trying to figure out how I can kill some more characters before I publish this thing. I love it. All right. After Avoiding Aiden came Puppy Love. You mentioned puppies around here and everybody's swoons, so I'm sure that this one's going to be pretty good too. What's Puppy Love all about?
Puppy Love starts out with even more tragedy than Avoiding Aiden. With a breakup is Avoiding Aiden. That's how that starts. Puppy Love is the death of the spouse. And so the main character, Ash, his husband dies, and he's left to kind of pick up the pieces. And then a dog shows up in his life, a dog named Bark Ruffalo, and shows up in his life and introduces him to his owner. And then it turns out like they're connected. They start having this intense relationship, like this real, like, not like frenemies or anything, but very much like you're pushing me to be something that I don't want to be. And it's like, you need to be pushed. And then it's very much just like one thing after the other. And so it's, just the developing of a new relationship.
Yeah, so not necessarily enemies to lovers, but more like, at least antagonistic on some level. But it sounds like the antagonism comes from a place of like wanting to help. That's interesting. Yeah. All right, that's going to be a good dynamic for those characters. That's pretty cool. Everyone loves a good dog.
Oh, yeah, and Bark Ruffalo's
But of course, dog. Richard with his tuna has to be more of a cat person.
I can't even with Richard right now.
I know, right? He's a real problem. He's a real problem. Like, he just shows up and throws monkey wrenches into the gears.
Yeah.
Now, you have other books. You have sci-fi, fantasy, paranormal. I understand the paranormal one is like a murder mystery. You got some kids' books. Where does all this versatility in your writing come from? And what can you tell us about some of these projects?
So the sci-fi series is the one that I'm planning on publishing next year. It's called the Fragments series. There's 4 books in it. And I actually have the draft sitting over here, like within eyesight, but I don't want to show you because I haven't done cover reveals for them yet.
Right on.
I have 2 of the 4 completed, all the way up to having the books like ready to be arc read and that kind of thing. And then I'm working on the 3rd. So 4th one's almost done, but I'm going to have to revise it. And that whole series is about, so the opening scene is that they're on a date. The main character, Jake, and Jordan, his love interest, they're on a date. They're blown through the window of the restaurant with an explosion. And then they run back in to save people. More fire happens, but Jordan is able to control it. So he's got superpowers, which I think is really cool. And then Jake's like getting involved in this world of, well, I want to know more, but I also, you say it's dangerous, and like, oh, I don't know, like, just lots of struggle there. And then all these people keep trying to kill Jake. And then throughout the series, we learn more about the history of where they get the powers from, how they come about to have the powers in the first place. And it gets into the history of the Earth. And I want to say right away, like, because it's going to be a thing, I'm not trying to make like religious statements, but it's very much changing the story of Christianity. because there's lots of mystery about that.
Sure.
And then I'm making answers to questions.
Well, I saw in your biopic the picture on your shirt where Jesus is like, "Oh my God, that's not what I said."
yeah, that's the OMG, you guys, it's not what I said. And Jesus is classic eye rolling picture.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
Richard says that you could write a legal drama about side dishes and call it Cole's Law.
Oh, Richard.
He really needs to get out of here. He really needs to get out, Richard.
The pun is painful, but also I really like that, and I made
right.
That reminds me of I just forgot the name of it. Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Law blog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that show.
Yeah.
The Never Nude.
Yeah. So that's a sci-fi. Fantasy. I want to write a young adult, maybe new adult, young fantasy series. And I've always been really inspired by the Animorphs series, which I absolutely love. K.A. Applegate in that series. 52 books. They're all novellas ranging from like 18,000 to 30,000 words. And absolutely love that series growing up. And so I wanted to write something similar, but with fantasy. And because I have ideas about how fantasy creatures and characters actually are. And so I've written 6 of those books right now, little novellas. And that's where I'm running into the problem of publishing, because I don't want to publish one thick book with like 5 different viewpoints. I want a series of like 40 books, 40 novellas. But then publishers are like, it's not worth the cost to print them. It's not worth this or that or whatever. And so I'm like, I'm just going to do it myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it myself. Yeah. Sure. So I'm going to do that. But again, self-publishing costs money.
Yeah.
And I'm working, but it's hard. So what I really like about this series is that I've got the main characters all come about finding out about this fantasy world in a different way. But it's like sci-fi fantasy mixed, because it's like alternate dimensions. But the dimensions only exist because our universe exists.
Okay.
But then you get into like the fantasy aspects of it, like where you get the fantasy creatures like unicorns and centaurs and all sorts of things. And then you learn that unicorns are actually like a level out of level 1 through 5 danger. They're level 5 danger because they're just so pretty and they lure you in with their beauty. And then it turns out they're like these skeletally disgusting creatures that impale you with their horn, which has a poison in it that disintegrates your skin, and then they eat your insides. Because
I want to read it immediately.
Right? I know. I'm like, I thought that was such a cool thing.
That's horrific, and I want to read it right now.
Yes, exactly. I really like that aspect. The idea of like dragons, imprinting, kind of like how werewolves are supposed to do that or whatever. Dragons imprinting on a human to be like, this is my person. This is my. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So. Oh yeah, definitely grew up in the 90s. And my siblings were the ones who got into Animorphs first, and I just got the leftovers. But thank goodness for my local library.
You're getting some love for Animorphs. People are freaking out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Self-publish it. I want the Animorphs Redux.
So I've got the 6 books there. What I really like is I have it all planned. So I have the 40 books planned, which is insane because I'm a total
that's a lot.
pantser.
Apparently not. Apparently you are not.
I know. My identity. I don't know who I am. Because what I did is I was like a paragraph for each, and then I just write the book. And so that's usually how it goes. But then lately I've been doing like a paragraph for each chapter, which is helping a lot. So I might be a pantser.
Yeah. It's so funny to me because like I honestly like I'm kind of baffled by legitimate pantsers.
Mm-hmm.
Is he okay?
Yeah, we have our neighbors outside raking leaves.
I'm usually so baffled by real pantsers who like literally like, you know, like the Stephen Kings of the world who just sit down and just start writing, and they begin at the beginning and they end at the end, and they're like done, and they move on to the next. And I'm like, how do you not lose your mind? I have to plot everything. I have to have outlines. And then the funny thing is that folks who are pantsers eventually start coming around to things, and then they're like, oh, I've been, you know, I'm kind of a planter. And before you know it, they're like, yeah, I've got like 40 books planned. So I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what I've run into is as I've gotten more experience, it's like, no, the plotting really helps because you write it down as you think about it, and then you can go back and then pants it, and then you've got the chapter done. And then that's how you just write the book.
Yeah, which is really honestly what I do. You know, George Martin and other authors, instead of saying pantsers and plotters, they go architects and gardeners. You know, the plotters are the architects that need absolutely every detail of everything, but the gardeners, they know where they're going. They have an idea, they have a plan, but they're also improvising as they go, and the end result is always going to be unique and different every time. And so that's you know, more my speed, where yes, I have outlines and I plan, but like you, I'll usually have a couple of paragraphs for a chapter, and then I'll expand and expand it into a full thing when I write it, and that's where a lot of the discovery comes in, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The paranormal one is a paranormal murder mystery romance. And it's called The Hotel Montclair. And the first chapter starts out with relationship drama, fighting with a boyfriend. The main character goes to apply at this hotel, Montclair, interviews. The guy's super weird, but she's like, yes, I'll take the job. Steps outside, hears a scream, looks up, and somebody splats right in front of them. Jumped out of a window, apparently is what the story is, but that's how the first chapter ends. And then from there we start, like, you know, learning more about, oh, that's like a celebrity so-and-so, and like that's the 5th celebrity death that's happened in this hotel in the past several weeks, and things are happening. And so then we meet the hunky detective and all sorts of stuff. And yeah,
these sound like really fun books, man. They really do. Like, I wish that I had some time to read them before you got here, because they sound really good, man.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely, with this one, I need to rewrite it because it was one of the first ones I wrote after the Fragment series. I've rewritten the Fragment series a total of 3 times. So
how do you find the time to rewrite it 3 times? That's crazy.
I was really lucky. So during the pandemic and the couple years before that, I was working at a hotel, the night audit shift. So I was working 11 p.m.
That's my job.
No way.
That's how I got this done.
Yes, exactly. Like, you do the audit stuff, and then bam, you have like 4 hours to kill.
Yes, I get at least 4 hours. Well, unless it's like a crazy busy night for some reason. But yeah, for the most part, I get a good 3 to 4 hours of writing and or editing every night. That's awesome, man. Yeah, there's that job is a real, like, double-edged sword, because you're up all night, you're sleeping during the day, it's unhealthy, it's unnatural, you don't, like, you're always like off kilter a little bit, but also, like, where else are you going to find the time to write that much in a, you know, I'm married, exactly. I got kids, like, I don't have time to do that during the day. I certainly don't have quiet enough to do that during the day. So yeah. I'm that's kindred spirits. That's fun.
Yeah, I like that.
We got more people what's it going? Resonating with you, pantsing all day long. All these pantsers. I don't understand you, but hey, go with God, man. Do it. Like, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
She goes back and forth, right on.
That's hot. That's hot.
Best tool for a good outline: a spreadsheet. There he goes again, just talking nonsense.
Spreadsheet.
I know. I'm not a big fan of spreadsheets, and for plotting, he uses it for like outlining.
I do charts. Like, I'll do like a 3x8 or whatever chart. So that's actually not a bad idea. That might help me stay more organized.
Yeah, I essentially do the same thing, but with like index cards. But at the end of the day, like, just like the cell work in a spreadsheet just makes me want to blow my brains out. And get off my boy's back. All right, he's trying really hard. He's trying really hard. Okay, it's you try to write. Never mind. All right. She hates the term pantser, hardcore plotter. No more pants. Pantsless. Yep. Okay. So there's a lot of pants talk going on in the
Let's
chat.
stop.
He says, I don't get on with the term pantser either, mainly as here in the UK they're called trousers.
So you're a trouserer.
Writing by this. So it's trouslers. It's trouslers. Trouserler. Yeah, trouslers.
Yeah. But then you'd have to figure out like another alliterative term, like trouselers, and
yeah. Do they have another word for
something.
plotting over there? Like what, Richard? What's another word for plotting over there in your neck of the woods?
Yeah.
So Aphrodite Lee wrote 2 screenplays at her college desk job. Yeah, man. Like some of these jobs are the way to go. See, that's the thing, is that I very badly want to quit my job. It's one of the reasons why I got so motivated to finish this thing and put it out and start my career. Hopefully one day become a full-time author where I can just literally like clock in to do this every day and not have to clock in to make somebody else more money than I'm making. But
exactly.
At the same time, like that's how I found time to do it in the first place. So it's interesting. Yeah. Right, more sleep, less. Yeah, yeah, that's one way to do it. Definitely not a plotter. Knows the beginning, middle, and end, and the high points, bones, and tendons. Wow. By writing time, it's all about adding flesh. Yeah, hardcore plotter over here for sure. But no spreadsheets. Okay, that gives you a couple more points in my book. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. All right, let's get on to the next question, which was... Actually, let me hide this. Where are we? Here we are. So you mentioned it already. You're returning to your roots. Your first book is getting a sequel. Tell us about the story of Silas. I didn't realize that it was already out, actually. So it's already gotten a sequel. Tell us about the story of Silas.
Yeah. So one thing that I realized in the first book was that the relationship that the main character has and Silas have with each other is really toxic. It's not healthy, and Silas is not not an upstanding person. Even like as you know, one thing that I realized is the idea that vampires are supposed to be like sexy, but they're bad, blah 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 blah. And I was like, bad can be sexy, but it isn't always. And so like,
and yeah, they're bad, but they should be scary in my opinion. Like vampires are supposed to be monsters, and so like like they're supposed to be seductive, but the whole like vampires are sexy thing always throws me off a little bit, because I'm always like, yeah, but they're gonna eat you, man. Like they're scary.
that's exactly what I went for. So that's why it's called a horror romance. Is the idea that there's erotic scenes where Silas has sex that is consensual, but then there's sex that is rape in there. And that's a thing that I think needs to be addressed around the vampire thing, is that if they're like, because especially in the first book, like that's the first scene is Silas is sleeping with the main character and he did not consent to being turned into a vampire. So then it turns into non-consensual. And I think that's really important to address.
And again, the whole part of their like seductive powers in a lot of vampire lore, the things that they're able to make people do against their will, that's all rape culture conversation that we should be having. That's pretty interesting. I'm glad that somebody's actually like zeroing in on that. That's always been like a big red flag for me with vampires.
Yeah, exactly. So in the end, what I realized was that I really wanted to tell the story of Silas, and it was around the same time that I was having some real personal family issues. And realized that I had some kind of toxic relationships myself within my family, and ended up kind of pouring that into the story of Silas. And that's why I even included not like a prologue, but like an author's note at the end that was very open and honest about my experience and how I think it's important to realize that this character is not a good person. This story has sex in it, and he like deserves whatever is coming his way, basically.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. It sounds really good. And looking forward to reading these bad boys from Aphrodite Lee. She says, yes, thank you, sexy but scary. Too many people forget the monster aspect.
Thank you. Yeah,
so you just made her day. Very, very cool.
Thank you.
Very cool. What big fangs you've got.
Yeah.
Let's see. What? I don't even know what that means. Well, the link is in the description below to his website, and so you can purchase those books from there. I'm sure that you can find the new book that way as well.
Yeah.
Although I don't remember seeing it on your website now that I think of it.
I don't know. Have I updated my website?
Maybe just no. You know what? You haven't, because I thought that it was still coming out. I didn't. It didn't. Yeah, you need to put the story of silence up there. Oh, man. Now I know that you're also into advocating LGBTQ community and all that. So tell us a little bit about the Southeast Idaho Pride Foundation. Excuse me.
Oh yeah. So this organization started in March, and I'm the director of communications and outreach for it.
Nice.
I'm using my background as a broadcast journalism person, so writing press releases, reaching out to people, using those connections, that kind of thing. But the really important work that we're doing in Southeast Idaho is the work surrounding outreach, education, advocacy, and making those connections for queer people who don't know what other people there are in their community that are safe. Where can I go to get a haircut? Where can I go to try and buy a house that I won't be discriminated against, kind of thing. Like,
that's such a good point, such a good idea.
Yeah. Just all these really important resources that queer people need, and they need to know that they're safe. Yeah. And so that's one of the things we've built a resource list. We've gathered people together. We have some amazing people. I can't speak highly enough about the people I work with at the Pride Foundation. And we continue to try and do yearly Pride events. We hosted one in August. I know that Pride is in June, and in our area we have, I think, 4 or 5 different Pride events that are where all these little smaller cities. And so we decided, Boise in Idaho, in Western Idaho, hosts theirs in September. They were just like, we'll do it when we need to. And so we decided to hold ours in August because we wanted to make sure we have a university here, and we wanted to make sure that we included the university community, because that's a good 10,000 students that come back to the university. So we're really trying to take those steps forward. And it's really important to unify the community. We've had a lot of, oh my gosh, so much what I call queer drama surrounding Pride. We've had like 4 or 5 different organizations try and do it. One used it as a fundraiser for themselves, and then like they refused to do a bunch of stuff for several people. There's just crazy drama that's absolutely should not be a thing. We need to unify now more than ever. We can disagree with each other all we want, but the agreement is that we should be able to live our lives the way that we should be able to.
Yeah.
And right now, Idaho is proposing a ban on public drag. And the way that it's being defined is basically like anti-trans as well. So it's super pisses me off, and just all of these things that I'm just like, I don't understand the hate for it.
So much in this country seems like a step forward and then 5 steps back sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, it's baffling that after like gay marriage was made legal so recently, that all of a sudden like we're literally taking steps backwards in that community. It's really really pissing me off. But the work never ends, man. We keep going. We keep going.
We meet monthly and sometimes more than that, and try and keep updating our stuff, and we're just continuing to plug along.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We got Joseph Harker in the house. Welcome. You're a newcomer. I haven't seen you around here before. He's read Everyday Vampire.
Yeah, he did a review on TikTok. It was great.
Fantastic. Very nice. Very nice. Too often dark fantasy highlights these relationships without addressing how toxic they are. Yep.
Yes.
So it's nice to dive into that for sure. You've got a new fan here. She just followed you on Amazon. Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. Also some love for your TikToks. That's how I found you. So yeah, absolutely. Go check him out on TikTok. And his TikToks are hilarious. Right on, right on. Sorry for the drama. I don't think it was you. I really don't think that you brought the drama, but apology accepted. Yeah, coming from a Brit.
Yeah. No, living here. Yeah.
No,
That's
we honestly are like really fucked up over here.
agreed. The US is so broken.
She just picked up Everyday Vampire, dude.
Oh, Aphrodite, thank
You're
you. Thank
moving
you
it.
so much.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
this is why we're here.
That's amazing.
Thank you, Aphrodite Lee. Very awesome. Very awesome. All right, guys. So we're about to. Oh, actually, I think I had a couple more before we move into the live chat Q&A. I want to get to those real quick. Oh, yes. You also had the Human Relations Advisory Committee mentioned as well. Anything you wanted to say about that before we move on?
So I was. Yeah, that was really fun. I was honored to be selected for that by the mayor of the city that I live in, and what we did is really work toward any human rights complaints or issues that we had. We created an online form where you could report either anonymously or leave your name and number kind of thing. We figure out where it needs to go to, and then from there we try and get it taken care of. One of the other things that we really tried to do was a welcoming city resolution, which ended up being really interesting. Our local city council was going through a bunch of turmoil at the time, and kind of making it seem like people like you in Idaho, you hear all the time like, oh, they're from California, go back to California or whatever. And that's not necessarily like people are coming from all over to Idaho. That's why our housing prices have increased 212%. Yeah, which is absolutely insane. And so part of the human relations was bringing all these different people, diverse people together and being like, hey, everybody's welcome here. Like, we have this awesome community. There's a lot to do here. There's a lot to see. And we also recognize that we have a lot of work to do. It was really interesting. I went from just being like a member to being the vice chair to being the chairperson. And then as soon as I was elected chairperson, I got the new semester schedule for the fall, and all the meetings fell on days that I had classes at the same time. And so I was like, I can't do that. And so I had to resign. They've got a new chair. I think things are still going really well for them. I'll apply if I am able to, and they want me back. I think it would be a great opportunity. But yeah, it was a good learning experience and good service, I think. We ended up having to write a letter as well. We had 3 city council members ended up resigning, and we kind of called for their resignation as well after they were like, oh no, our community isn't that diverse and blah, blah, blah. They said a bunch of really racist things. And so we were like, no, that's not what we want in our community. Thanks, though.
They're supposed to be representing the community. So it's important that we stand up and do stuff like that when they step out of line, for sure.
They're supposed to represent the ideals, like the positive, helpful ideals of our community. Yes, there are racists in our community, for sure. Yeah. And we want to make sure represent that, them. Don't represent that. Their voices should not be heard.
Absolutely. All right, man. So before we dive into the live chat Q&A, we're just going to go ahead and remind everybody at home that this Tuesday, we've got the next episode of Tuber Book Club coming up. We're still voting on what our next book will be for 2023. So here's just a little reminder for you guys. Here we go. Well, all right, y'all. Let's go ahead and dive into it. First through the door was Huckleberry Roar with the question: are your books on Kindle Unlimited?
I believe they are. I think.
You
No,
should
like
probably check that out.
I think I had to pay for mine, like to order it to pay on Kindle. But
Okay.
no, I'll have to look. That'd be really awesome if they were. Any
We're gonna find out and get back to you.
yeah, I'll find out.
Sorry, I cut you off. What were you gonna say there?
No, that was just me. I don't even know like what is going on with my books, and that's probably something I should be aware of.
You should probably check that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Wesley asking, what was the sci-fi series called and when does it come out?
So sci-fi series is called Fragments. I have the first book is set to debut on August 19th of 2023.
Nice.
That first book is called Fragments, The Revelation. And then after that is The Prophecy, then The Defiance, then The Arrival.
All right. And that's the sci-fi series. So is that the one with the 40 books that you have planned?
That's just 4 now.
Okay.
This one is the one with the superpowers.
Gotcha.
You've got fire, lightning, water, and all. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Right on. Now, Aphrodite came into the show a little late. She was asking about plans to dabble in other genres. We already talked about that you were doing sci-fi, you're doing fantasy, you're doing some paranormal stuff, and you've got some kids' books and stuff right now. If you want to just very quickly remind her or inform her what's
yeah.
going on with those.
So I planned a 40-part fantasy series for young adult / new adult. I'm not sure which yet because they're like in the transition from end of high school to beginning of college. And so I feel like it should be new adult because then they are like exploring their selves and their bodies. And that's a thing. And I write about things that actually happen. So I like to think that that's important to do. So I got that. And then the kids book, so far I have one. I actually have a dear friend who is working on the illustrations for it. Doing all the letters and stuff. So we'll see how that turns out. Maybe I can self-publish that. I don't know what to call it yet though, but it's the revised version of the story that I wrote in 8th grade.
I was just going to say that should be it. Yeah. I'm glad that
I was like, I really need to publish that. And it's like a super queer friendly, the idea of being non-binary or gender fluid or, whatever, however you identify, you don't fall into whatever category you just are and you still have value.
Yeah. In regards to the category of the book evolving over time, she's comparing to Harry Potter. Like it went from middle grade to young adult, the way that the characters grew up with the audience and everything. So that's one way to look at it too when you're doing that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, not bad at all. Folks, if you have any other questions for Mr. Cole, please label them with a Q, throw them in there before we start wrapping up. I'm going to throw a couple more of my questions at him while you guys do that. We have a good 18, let's call it 8 minutes left in the show. Let's see. So I wanted to ask the best book that you have read recently. What do you got for us?
Ooh, I'm gonna be honest, I don't read that much.
I know, me neither. I only read the books that we cover on the book club because I just don't have time.
It sounds kind of cheesy. So there's 2 that I can think of. One is this book called Boundaries, and it's a book that I read for my counseling program, but it was actually really helpful in being able to say like the word no. And not make up an excuse or lie and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm taking my dog's butthole anal glands to get squeezed that day. I'm just so unavailable.
High priority stuff.
I don't have to say that. I can just say, no, I'm just not available.
Yeah.
And I don't have to have something else going on. I can be sitting here at home with, my finger in my nose, if that's a priority that I want to have.
Yeah.
So that was really good. I also really like, there's this book, I don't know if anybody knows Laura Cleary. She's been really active on like Facebook and YouTube. I know her from, she did this character called Help Helen Smash, and she used the square jaw filter on Snapchat and started making these like really raunchy, flirtatious videos of this woman, Helen, trying to smash her husband, or this guy, Steven, who's actually her husband. But now they're separated. But in real life and everything. And so she wrote a book called Idiot, which is all about her journey from being an addict to recovery and where she's at now. And then she wrote a sequel called Idiots, and it's where she started a family and continues to tell those stories and parenting journeys and stuff like that. And I really enjoy her reading and writing style. And she narrates the audiobooks herself, which I think is just amazing. So I would recommend those as well.
I don't know if I've seen those videos of her, but it rings a weird bell. Like when you described it with the square jaw thing, and it sounds very familiar. Yeah. And the title "Idiots" also rings a weird bell in my brain. So I wonder if I obviously haven't read it, but I wonder if I've heard about it and maybe put it on a list somewhere.
Yeah.
Aphrodite asks, "What's your general writing schedule? Do you write daily, certain amount of hours per week? How do you roll?"
Oh gosh. So I'm taking 16 credits in grad school, and then I've got the full-time job. So I basically, like, Tuesdays and Thursdays are my heavy days. I at work at 7 in the morning. I get done with classes and advising at like 8 at night. So I don't write those days. Wednesdays, some Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. I find time just here and there, usually on the weekends. Definitely just take my time to do what I'd like to do. So what I've been doing recently is writing in the action adventure series that I have, that I try and do a chapter every 2 weeks at least. Just kind of keep myself accountable and work with the local writers group so that we can meet and present those chapters. But I would say hours per week, anywhere between 1 hour to 10. Nice. It really just depends on what my availability is like. I'm going to be writing a lot more during breaks, like Thanksgiving break, winter break. It'll be nice.
I'm honestly shocked by how much you get done, if that's really all the time that you'd get to write every week. It's pretty impressive how much you've gotten done.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Richard, I see that you wrote in there that you asked a question. I don't see the question. Can you copy it and paste it again? Because somehow I missed it, and I don't want to miss your question before we leave. Let me see. Do we have another one? We do have three more. All right. Nope, we did that one. Here we go. Is there a character you've written that you identify with the most?
Ooh. Good. What's interesting is I used to not really like Remy from my book Puppy Love. I used to think that he was too pushy, too forceful. And he's a school counselor in the book, which is, what I'm going into. And so I was like, oh, super relatable. Like, I can do that. And then in the sequel, I'm finding out more and more that I'm able to write these traits that I don't really like about myself into this character. And so I'm kind of identifying with him in that regard. And I'm not liking it. It's not my favorite thing. For sure, but it's nice to be able to identify those things that I'd like to work on. And then I've got in avoiding Aiden, I really think Aiden is near and dear to me. That kind of, I didn't realize how much I avoided my own feelings and emotions until I started getting into the counseling program, and so I really identify with him as well.
How interesting that us writing these fictional stories can sometimes peel back some layers within ourselves a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that about me.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know how much I avoided my feelings. Oh boy.
That's good stuff. Now, I know you said that you don't find too much time to read, but Joseph asks if you are reading anything right now, even sporadically.
Yeah, I started the book Idiots. Is the one I was talking about. So I'm still listening to it on audiobook. Nice. I had to go to Boise this last week, and so I got a good 6 hours in, which was nice.
All right. Do you use a pen name for your various different genres, or is it all under one umbrella? What do you think the pluses and minuses of either approach?
So I was given some good advice by a successful writer friend that pen names are helpful so that you don't so that you can have distinguished writing genres. So my romances are written under Chris Cole. My sci-fi series is coming out under Cole Stevens. And then I'm planning on my fantasy series is going to be under C.S. Clegg. Which are all different variations of my legal name and everything. So I'm still identifiable. But I definitely think that there are pluses and minuses. I think the minus for me is that I have to figure out how to sign my name when it's not like my real name. And then
what an interesting problem to have.
right. And then I'll be on social media and like I'm not, afraid to be like, oh yes, my pen name is this, my pen name is that. The problem that I'm running into is that I have students in my school who get real curious. And so I've had them look up my books online and they were like, oh, and I was like, no, that's not school appropriate. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's been interesting for sure.
Now I noticed the different pen names in your social media. I noticed Stevens over on TikTok. I noticed Clegg over on Instagram, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So it looks like you're already like kind of like dividing and conquering as far as like your marketing goes for your different pen names and different genres. Is there any? I guess my question is: did you specifically pick, for example, TikTok for Cole Stevens, and did you specifically pick, or is it just that you've been using your name in various ways?
So I was using Chris Cole on TikTok until one of my students found me, and I had just posted a video to that wet ass pussy song. Wow. And I was like, so I changed it so they could find me again. Yeah. But I mean, they're resourceful, so they could probably figure it out.
It's just the internet, man. It's hard to hide anything these days.
Exactly. So it's kind of that balance of, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a TikTok the other day, something I had never seen before, but it was a woman talking. She had a comment up on her screen from somebody put a nasty comment and basically saying, "You'll never know who I am," or something like that. And she's like, "Watch me," and she like broke down like how she went all Sherlock Holmes on this guy and like tracked him down all the way to his Facebook. And like, "Oh, is that you?" It's like, "Oh my God, man, you can't hide anything online."
Nice. Yeah, for sure.
How do you unwind after you get that first draft done?
Usually I go out to dinner, and we'll eat some just really greasy, lots of fat kind of stuff, just to really make myself feel good. And then, I feel miserable after eating all that grease and fat and stuff. And then, when it comes to writing, I start on a new different book. So when I finish like a romance, I start on the sci-fi. When I finish the sci-fi, I go back to romance, or I'll go to the fantasy, or switch,
mix it up,
that kind of thing. And then when I go back to the book to start the edits after like maybe a week or two, it took me a couple of years with the second round of Fragments, which that series, it's a love-hate relationship for sure. Because you get so done with the book and the characters, and you're just like, I'm just going to kill everybody off and end the book that way. Oh my gosh. And then you get back and you're like, oh yeah, no, that one's funny. I love that character. That one's great. So it definitely, I need to that unwind with time. For sure.
Yeah. For sure. Do you write everything in first or third, or do you mix it up?
I've written, everything so far I've written that I published is first person. The action adventure romance series that I'm writing is in third person.
Okay.
But it's third person limited, so it's told from the perspective of the main character, at least for the most part. Yeah,
that's usually my jam, is third person limited. I have trouble reading first person, so I try not to write it too much, because when I'm reading, I want to escape into like whatever I'm being told a story, and the whole first person thing puts me in their shoes a little too much. And I'm like, would I do this? I wouldn't do it. I would make this choice, or I would make that choice. And I get too much into my own head sometimes. Yeah. So I always write in third person limited. But it's always a sign of a really good writer, a really good book to me when I do pick up something written in the first person and I get through it. I have like, it just, that's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
And I think this might be our last question of the day, an apt one to go out on: Mickey D's, Burger King, or Wendy's?
Oh, my counselor friends are going to love this. It depends.
Okay. You know what? It depends with me too. What are your stipulations?
If I want a good burger, I choose Wendy's. If I want something cheap and fast, I'll go to McDonald's. If I want something that's just, I have a salt craving, I go to Burger King, because I always find that they're just like so salty.
They are pretty salty.
Which, like, I need to be saltier, right? But no.
See, for good burgers, good fast food burgers, I'm gonna go to Wendy's over the other two.
Yeah.
But I do actually like really enjoy a good Burger King burger. I feel like they're a little underrated. I don't think McDonald's makes good hamburgers. I think their hamburgers are kind of crap. But I like their nuggets. I'll go there, or their breakfast menu. I'll go there for their breakfast menu.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But they're usually Mickey D's is usually my last choice. It's like, well, I got like $2. I'm gonna go through the freaking dollar menu and get something, you know.
Yeah. When I do need to unwind, I do like an actual legit restaurant, like, you know, Applebee's or some fancy shit like that.
Applebee's. Oh man. Okay, so I thought that we were done, but we got some more questions going. What is your favorite book you've written, and what is your most popular book? If they are
I would say both would be Avoiding Aiden. Just the idea behind it, and there's you know I don't know if there's a trigger warning or a content warning, but there should be in one of the scenes that kind of really relates to an issue that a lot of people don't talk about, which is male sexual assault. And it's important to talk about, and it doesn't take away from the fact that more women get sexually assaulted than men, and I also think that's important to address as well. So it's the idea that sexual assault in general happens, needs to stop, and I think it's really important to address. So I wrote about it. I know the story took a really different turn in a way, but I think it was an important one to take, and then overcoming all of those obstacles to end up still okay. And so that's my favorite book, I think.
Nice. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. We just got Wendy's over here in the UK. Well, welcome to the 21st century.
Yeah, have fun.
Yeah, enjoy that.
Their burgers, they're square. They're amazing.
I know. She says they all suck. And our final note from Richard: I went to a Hooters once and just had to stare at the floor. You missed the entire point of Hooters.
No, yeah. Like even I'm staring at the servers, but I'm also like, what are your goals in life? Like after this, like what do you value about?
Are you paying your way through school?
Exactly.
Like, what do you do?
Like,
Yeah.
You should do something that if this is fulfilling to you, absolutely yes, you go for it. And if it's not, you should not be demeaned at work, and your manager should not be. And yeah. So.
Yeah, 8 out of 10 times when I ask, they're usually like, "Oh, I'm an actress." Like, yep, I figured. Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Cole, for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor really quick for a second here. Tell the folks at home what you have coming up next, or what you want to direct them to, whether it's a book that you really would like them to pick up right now, or an event that you've got coming up. Go ahead and say goodbye to the folks at home.
Gotcha. So I would really recommend Avoiding Aiden, and that's not just because it's my favorite. I would say that that's because it's won 2 awards, which is really exciting to me. I think that's probably a really good sign on my end that maybe I did something right, which is a really good feeling. So check out Avoiding Aiden. This is the cover. He looks a little shocked about life, which once you meet his siblings, you'll understand why. And I think that that's probably the one that I would recommend. But I've got a sequel that I'm writing right now that takes place shortly after this one ends. And then I've got the sequel coming out for Puppy Love as well. I'm planning on publishing those hopefully this upcoming summer if I can get them done in the spring. Right now I've got Puppy Love plotted, and I've got the sequel to Puppy Love, and then the sequel to Avoiding Aiden. I've got it in my head how I want it to end, but I haven't written out a plot for it yet. So definitely recommend picking up Avoiding Aiden. It's got some good reviews as well.
Right on. Very, very cool. And you're just a sequel writing fiend right now, man. That's awesome. You got sequels coming out.
Did not plan on sequels, but then I was like, I miss them. I miss those characters.
That's what happens, man. They live up here for so long that when you're done with them, you're like, I want some more time with them.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. All right. Well, folks, Cole is going, Mr. Cole, Chris Cole is going to hang out with us a little further here, and we're going to record an episode of Typewriters Podcast. So if you are looking for more from Chris Cole, come back here Thursday, 4 p.m. when that episode will premiere, and I'll be in the chat during the premiere if you guys want to talk. Mr. Cole, if you are free during that time, you're welcome to join us in the chat. Otherwise, it's not required of you, but it is going on during that time.
Nice.
And a friendly reminder to everybody, Tuber Book Club is still going on. This Tuesday is our final episode of 2022. We're doing the interview with Bradley Lejeune, the writers, the chimera-like writers of the McMurdo Rift. And we're also revealing the winner of the poll for the next book, our first book of 2023, which incidentally should be right around the time that my book is coming out. So keep in touch with me for that. What else? Oh yeah, next live stream Sunday is a group discussion on character. All things character. We're going to be blabbing about it all day. Well, not all day long, for about an hour and 15 minutes. So come back on Sunday at 4 p.m. All right, y'all. Thank you all very, very much once again for being with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting the show for you guys as usual. I am stalling as I get this stuff ready. And here we go.